Justin Verlander was excellent on Wednesday night, stopping the bleeding with an incredible start, going 7 strong and offering a glimmer of hope that this season can still be turned around. We're going to discuss Verlander's brilliance and more on today's edition of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, the Mets needed everything that Justin Verlander gave them on Wednesday night. It was a masterful performance, and this is a team that has just gotten nothing from their starting rotation, and it felt like a game that could just change the entire momentum of a season. And it's not to say that all of a sudden all the problems are fixed because Justin Verlander gave the Mets a good outing, but it is the promise of more with Justin Verlander. It's the fact that he's going to take the ball every fifth day. It's the fact that he just went from throwing whatever it was, 79 pitches in his first outing to 105. It's the fact that he went out and got you the 7th inning after getting through 6 and being over 90. And a quick conversation with Buck Showalter. The veteran goes back out, needs 14 pitches, strikes out 2 batters in that 7th inning, and is able to hand that game off to the back end guys. You don't have to worry about expanding that bullpen any more than you absolutely needed to. 6 outs is all they had to get, and they got you there. So what Justin Verlander just did for this Mets team, it goes a long, long way because they have not had that all season. When Max Scherzer's been healthy, he's been ineffective. They haven't had another frontline veteran that you can trust. Kodai Senga, as good as he's been, he has not gone deep into games. This was only the second time this year they've gotten outs in the 7th inning from one of their starting pitchers. Joey Lucchesi, the other guy to do it. This was massive for the New York Mets. So what's crazy is in the first inning, I'm sure Mets fans were ready to jump off the Verlander boat immediately because he gives up a run in the first inning, and we know how reactionary fans can be. And honestly, the Mets have given you every single reason to be pessimistic at this point in the season. So when you're in a 1-0 hole early, you're like, oh my God, here we go again. But Justin Verlander settled in. He retired 18 of his last 19. The final 10, the only one that he didn't retire was via a walk. He was unhittable. And what he started to do, you saw the curveball got tighter, the changeup looked great. You know, he's able to locate that fastball, and really with swing pass now, he can use that fastball up in the zone, and guys aren't really, squaring it up because they're trying to attack in the lower part of the zone, and Verlander just knows how to pitch and also knows how to pitch to some contact to get through those middle innings and get you to that finish line through 7. It was masterful. And the Mets offense wasn't even good in this game. They got 10 hits. That was great. And I think we're starting to see, the benefit of the lineup that's been constructed, some of the continuity that's beginning to form. You're seeing at the end of the lineup, guys like Francisco Alvarez giving you really good at-bats. You're seeing that top 5 where there's a lot of hitters that you fear, but they only put 2 runs today. You had a Pete Alonso home run that tied the game, and Brandon Nimmo was able to drive in a run. And granted, that was massive because it started with the back half of the lineup that led to Nimmo being able to get that what proved to be game-winning RBI. And it was Louis Guillorme who had a double. Alvarez extended the inning. It was a 2-out double. He drew a walk, a great at-bat. He is just completely comfortable right now at the big league level. We're not sure if that's going to stay for the whole season. I'm sure there's going to be ebbs and flows. But Francisco Alvarez is looking like a guy that probably should be batting in the 9-hole too much longer. But he gives you this really potent bat. And maybe with him in the 9-hole, Other teams maybe don't fear him as much. Hey, it's just a catcher batting ninth. But man, we know what he can do. We saw the 2 home run game in the first one of this series. And I just love the at-bats that we saw from him. Also, there was a good defensive play where he gunned down a runner at second base, was able to, in a first and third situation, look back a runner at third, fire to second, and get an out. And also, speaking of good defense, Brett Beatty made a good play coming in on a ball, made a good play catching a ball over the railing, so the defense was there. But this was a win that the Mets needed. It all started with Verlander, but there was good defense played. We saw Jeff McNeil make a sliding catch. We saw Louis Guillorme make a diving play. And look, there's a recipe here to some more victories in the future. I'm okay with the line that the Mets rolled out there today, with Guillorme starting over Canha the way Canha has been playing, because if we're getting our mind around a Jeff McNeil in the corner more and more as an outfielder, well, that just helps a group that has really struggled. I think that Starling Marte is due to turn around at some point, but we know when that's going to happen. You need some more production out there. If you put Jeff McNeil in the outfield, okay, you're getting good defense, and now you're finally getting some offense out of those spots. And Guillorme, he has been swinging a little bit of a better bat since April 10th, and we saw the double. We've seen him working counts again, and what he gives you defensively at second base is far superior to anything Mark Canha would be giving you left field. You get better defensively in 2 spots. So I'm happy with the lineup that they put out today, and Justin Verlander was just everything you could have asked for. They needed it, and they're going to need to see him continue to do that start over start. They need a Cy Young to lead this team, and boy, if Verlander can be that, I'm not so sure that he is going to get enough starts to contend for another Cy, considering he missed that first month of the season. But boy, could a narrative get built up if the Mets go on a run based on Verlander carrying them. This could be a really, really massive signing the Mets made if he can turn this ship around right now. And it was exactly what they needed to just take a collective deep breath, and hopefully that leads to a series victory on Thursday and more of that to come. But before we get into free agency, because I want to talk about Billy Epler and some of the mistakes that I think we all think he made, and maybe how there wasn't a lot out there for him to have done better. We're going to get to that in a minute. Before we do, though, have you ever been in a situation where you want to go to the game, but you're just too stressed out trying to find tickets? That is where the Game Time app is here for you. It's a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you, with killer deals on last-minute tickets, so you can make sure you get your best price guaranteed. You can stop stressing over the tickets and get hyped for all the fun you're going to have at the game. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best prices. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps, you're all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through email. Snag tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. With the New York Mets struggling up to this point in the season, a lot of fans are pointing the finger at Billy Epler and some of the signings that he made, or others that maybe he didn't make, that have put the Mets in this position. And obviously, you look at the starting rotation, you think, man, couldn't the Mets have done better? Couldn't they have made a couple of moves that would have put them in a better situation than the one that they ultimately find themselves in? While I am not going to sit here and say Billy Epler is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, in my latest article for JustBaseball.com, I explored free agency this past offseason and really discovered it was a complete crapshoot if you were trying to find starting pitching in that market. The article is titled "Free Agent Starters Have Not Provided Good Production in 2023," and if you go up and down the list of all the starters that were available, it's hard to find where Billy Epler could have done much better than the guys that he ultimately brought in. So we begin with the top of the market. Jacob deGrom, Carlos Rodon, Justin Verlander. There's only one of them that's pitching right now, and that's Justin Verlander. You have Rodon, who is looking like an absolute bullet dodged. Imagine you signed him. Now all of a sudden the Yankees had this guy who's under contract for 6 years, $162 million, who apparently has a chronic back injury, and he was on the IL for a forearm issue in the beginning anyway. I mean, that is a scary, scary contract for a guy that has a worse injury history than even Jacob deGrom, a guy that really has only put together one full season in 2022, and the year prior dealt with some dead arm at the end of the year, and of course was injured time and again before that. So I look at Justin Verlander compared to Rodon, and I see a 2-year deal, and I see a Verlander on the hill tonight giving you 105 pitches, and think, yeah, that was a good move. Then you look at Jacob deGrom, 5 years, $185 million. He's already dealt with multiple injury questions, and now he's on the IL, throwing lightly, but not getting back on the mound. Not to say that Jacob deGrom isn't a better pitcher than Justin Verlander, not to say that Jacob deGrom might not prove to be healthy over this 5-year deal. But at this juncture, I can't say that the Mets didn't get the best pitcher for them of those three based on the fact that we just saw what Verlander can do, and he could be a workhorse for this team in a way that those other two guys probably couldn't have been. On a less risky deal based on, of course, the length, because giving a 40-year-old guy, $80 million, $86 million, of course, there's some inherent risk in that as well. I mean, you're seeing what Scherzer looks like in year 2 of a deal. So we'll see what happens in 2024, but for now, the Mets made it out okay. Now, you look at all the other signings that were made this offseason, and it is hard to find the plus additions that teams have made when it comes to starting rotations. When it comes to guys getting hurt, Jose Quintana, of course, on the shelf right now. No way to predict that, but the Mets aren't getting any production from him. Jameson Taillon's dealt with an injury. Zach Eflin dealt with an injury, but those guys are back now. Taillon, though, has struggled. ERA at 5.29. I believe it was actually before his last start. I think that even ballooned even worse. But regardless, ERA over 5. And the list of starters who have ERAs over 5 is very long and almost shocking. Tyler Anderson. I know a lot of Mets fans wanted him this offseason. 5.40 ERA. Andrew Heaney. Mets fans were screaming about that one. 5.52 ERA. Sean Manaea, no one wanted him, but hey, the Giants got him. 7.33 ERA, and that was prior to, I think, another bad start tonight. Ross Stripling, 6.66 ERA. Tells you all you need to know. Noah Syndergaard, 6.32 ERA. He just had some finger issue. It looked like his finger came off the fingertip. That was a rough one for Noah. Tough start to his Dodgers career. Corey Kluber, 6.29 ERA. Michael Wacha, 5.46. Mike Clevenger, 4.84, and Kyle Gibson, 4.40. Just not a lot of guys the Mets could have signed that would have been much better than the production that they've gotten. Now, Kodai Senga has been good. It's one of the few free agent successes. I actually counted 5 that I would call free agent successes. You have Senga, okay, who we can look at the expected metrics and think some regression might be coming, but overall, he's been very good. He's 4-1 on the season. The Mets have done very well when he's on the mound, 3.38 ERA. We'll see if he can close out this series against the Reds. Nathan Eovaldi has been very good, 3.33 ERA, eating up 44 and 2/3 innings pitched. He was in the top 15 of innings pitched. That would have been a great signing, but I think hindsight's 20/20 on that one. Maybe you could say, yeah, they should have signed Eovaldi instead of Quintana, but at the same time, you do have to wonder if a guy like Eovaldi wanted a more sure spot in the rotation. The Mets might not have been able to offer that to Eovaldi. So it is what it is. Again, that's only operating under hindsight. Zach Eflin, as I said, he was hurt at one point, but when he's been on the mound, he's been very successful. His K rate has skyrocketed with the Rays up to 28.4%. 2.25 ERA has been good. Seth Lugo, one of the few success stories when it comes to free agency. 3.21 ERA in 6 starts, 33 and 2/3 innings pitched. Maybe the Mets should have given him an opportunity at some point, but regardless, I'm not too mad at that one either, okay? Chris Bassett, that would be the last guy I look at and say that was a good signing that has panned out for a team up to this point. You look at his 4.28 ERA, maybe you don't see it, but then you look a little bit deeper. He gave up 9 earned runs in his first start against the Cardinals, 10 hits allowed, 4 home runs, didn't make it out of the 4th. Since then, he has been very steady for the Blue Jays. He has 5 quality starts out of his last 6, where he's gone at least 6 innings, allowed 2 earned runs or less. The one time where he didn't have a quality start, still went 5, allowed 4 in that one. Overall, he has a 2.45 ERA since his awful debut, and he's earned 4 wins in the process. I think we took for granted, how much Bassett helped the Mets last year, just being a steadying presence. But I can still make the argument that Kodai Senga on a 5-year deal, $75 million with the opt-out, is going to provide more value than Bassett at 34 on a 3-year deal worth $63 million. So I really don't think the Mets were going to sign both of them. You look at the Verlander Senga signings, they might prove to be some of the best free agent starting pitching signings that any team made this offseason. Unfortunately, what you didn't expect was Quintana to give you nothing because he gets hurt. Carrasco to be bad when he's on the mound. Hopefully that gets better. David Peterson to turn into a pumpkin. Tyler McGill to be, a lesser version of what we saw at his best last year. All of these things have not broke the Mets' way, but it's not necessarily Billy Epler's fault. I honestly think we're at a point in the season where you can't point the finger at the manager or the GM. You just point the finger at the players and say they're underperforming, and you hope that because you have a veteran group, those things can be ironed out and turn around quickly. But maybe the best signing that the Mets made this offseason was simply grabbing their own guy and keeping him in the fold. Brandon Nimmo has been the Mets' best player this year. I want to discuss that a little bit in just a minute. Before we do, today's episode is also brought to you by Sorare. Our new fantasy sponsor, Sorare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, Sorare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next-level competitions and rewards, which can include Sorare scarcity cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, and VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. Prizes may vary depending on the competition. Head to Sorare.com/lockedon, that's spelled Sorare.com, to draft your team of free player cards. Set your lineup and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that is Sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. If you were to tell me this time last year that Brandon Nimmo would be back with the Mets on an 8-year contract worth over $180 million, I would have said you are absolutely crazy. But it has been an amazing first year of the deal so far. He has been the Mets' best player. He is hitting 311 after tonight, 406 on base, 455 slug. He's got a 144 weighted runs created plus. Again, WRC plus measures hitters based on a league average of 100. He's been 44% better than your league average hitter. He had the RBI knock today. He is scoring runs. He's setting the table as a leadoff man. He is doing everything in the outfield defensively. He's been amazing out there. Continues to look like, if not a Gold Glove center fielder, a well above average center fielder. And I don't know where the Mets would be right now without Brandon Nimmo, because this outfield has been atrocious around him. So just imagine if Starling Marte was your starting center fielder. Where would this team be? I mean, there was a point this offseason where I didn't think that the Mets were going to get Nimmo. I thought Starling Marte was going to be the center fielder, and I don't know, were they going to get Michael Conforto back? I think that was something that I know it was something I was campaigning hard for, and I will own when I'm wrong. Not to say that I would have wanted Conforto over Nimmo. I just didn't think that they were going to spend that money on Nimmo, so I thought, hey, Conforto, not a bad fallback. He's striking out 30% of the time this year. His on-base percentage is an even 300, but he's batting 168. 73 WRC plus, so he's 27% worse than your league average hitter. He's been a net negative when it comes to F4 compared to Nimmo, who's been one of the most valuable players in baseball when it comes to Fangraphs wins above replacements. Look, the alternative to Brandon Nimmo would have this team in even worse of a hole. And Nimmo has provided exactly what you got last year, if not even being a little bit better. And we'll see if that holds up. We'll see if he's a guy that can push to be an all-star this year. I don't know if he's going to have enough counting stats to do it, but he's certainly been the Mets' most valuable player up to this point. He's been their most consistent player atop the lineup. And moving forward, they're going to need him to continue to be that leader because this is a lineup that I think has some guys that can be a little bit streaky. I think Nimmo's the type that you hope can find that consistency and be there day in and day out because they just desperately need it. So love what he's done, and I think it's proving to be one of the better signings that the Mets made this offseason. Regardless, so that's going to be all for today's edition of Locked On Mets. For all you everydayers, tomorrow we'll be recapping the final game of this series against the Reds. Also looking ahead to this weekend against the Nationals, and it's a Friday Farm Report, so I'll give you your update on all the minor leaguers. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, @FinkelsteinRyan. Follow the show, @LockedOnMets.